Hello and welcome. This is Angie with thecountrysheetcottage.net. So today we're going to talk about color changing vinyl. Got two different types, one that changes with heat and one that changes with cold. You can use these for your projects for a super unique feeling to them. Add them to like mugs, glasses, that type of thing, or I'm sure you can come up with other uses as well. Let's take a look first at how these look when they color change, and then we're going to make a couple projects with them. This is color changing vinyl. So there's two different types. The red is going to change with heat, and I'll just demonstrate that with the heat gun. And then the white is going to change with cold. So the red's going to change to yellow, the white's going to change to blue. So I just have a heat gun, and first we'll look at what heat does to each of these. I'm just going to turn it on, and then I'm just going to go over an area, and you can see that change to yellow. If I do the same thing over here, there's no change at all. So this one changes with heat. I've cut a couple of different pieces off another couple of sheets of this, and we're going to look at what cold does to those. So I've got a glass of just ice cold water, and first of all we'll dip the one that changes with cold, the white. I'm going to dip it in the water, and you can see it changes to blue. Now the red that changes with heat, I can dip it in the ice cold water and there's no change in color. So two different types. Now let's make a project with both of those. Let's first talk about the type of cup to use with your project. So cups like these are insulated tumblers. When you put ice cold drinks in them or hot drinks in them, you can't really feel a temperature change on the outside. So putting the vinyl on the outside of these does not work. So I found both of these do not work. This one is somewhat insulated, but if I put cold liquids in it, I can feel it slightly on the outside. So the vinyl did change. It wasn't quite as vibrant, but it did change with this. These are the two that I'm actually going to use for my projects. So this one I'm going to put the heat changing. This one I'm going to put the cold changing. And these are just regular mugs, glass mugs. And definitely when you fill these up with cold liquid, you definitely feel it from the outside. Or this one with hot liquid, you would definitely feel it. So think about that when picking the surfaces for your project with color changing vinyl. Next up, we're gonna cut and weed our vinyl. So you just put it face up on your mat. My Joy machine was out, I just went ahead and used my Joy. You can cut this with any Cricut machine on the vinyl setting. So it cuts fine on the vinyl setting, is what I've found. And then once you've cut it, we'll weed it the same way as we do regular vinyl. So I'm just going to weed away all the excess from around the outside as well as the centers of the letters. And here are both my designs completely weeded. So I weeded out everything around the outside and then the centers of letters. Now I would do a test cut. This stuff is pretty thick. So depending on your blade condition, you could have to cut it twice or cut it on something like the glitter vinyl setting, which is a bit, intended for something a bit thicker, but I would do a test cut on those, so depending on your blade condition you could see a difference. So let's start with this Rise and Shine on the mug, and I'm just going to use transfer tape to transfer it. I'm using transfer tape from Vinyl Ease. We'll just burnish it down really well. Burnish it down on the back. And I will link to everything below, everything I'm using, including where I bought the color changing vinyl. And so you can find those links easily in the description below. You may have to click see more to see that. And we'll just peel back this backing paper, leaving the vinyl on the transfer tape. Then once this is completely on the transfer tape, we can just put it on our mug. Just burnish that down. Then just peel back your transfer tape, leaving that vinyl on your mug. And you can definitely rub over it just to make sure everything's stuck down really well. And we'll take a look at this one changing colors in a minute, but let's make our one for our cold color changing vinyl next. So I'm just going to use that same piece of transfer tape and use the same procedure to put this one on our mug. Then we'll just transfer it to our mug in the same way. I also wanted to note I'm going to leave a link for the SVG files for both of these below as well. You can see this one almost looks like etched glass when it's actually on here, but I can't wait for you to see this one change. So let's actually take these mugs, pour something in them, and watch them change in real time. This one I'm pouring in hot water, and it's actually out of the tap, but our water is turned up pretty hot. So we are going to watch that change, and I'm actually we're going to watch it change real time. So I'm not going to speed this up or anything, just so you can see how fast or slow that the vinyl changes. And I think you can already start to see it change and changing to that so cute yellow. And you can see that it changes like from red to orange to that bright yellow at different rates. And so if you were to get up, pour your hot tea in there, hot coffee in there, or whatever, you can see that the vinyl would change colors as it heats up. And then as your drink cools down, it would change back to red. So it will go back to that red color after the drink cools down. So I think you can kind of see from that the color changing of the heat color changing vinyl and what it would look like on your project. And if you will note down there at the bottom, you see how that bottom of the shine is still red? That's because it's so far down on the cup that there's no liquid there. So that's like kind of where the base of the cup is. So if I wanted to, I could move that design up a little bit so the whole thing would change that yellow instead of just yellow down to orange, down to red like it is now. Or I could leave it at the bottom if I like that look. So it's one thing to note when you're doing your vinyl placement on your mugs. So now let's take a look at the cold version of this. So for this cold version, you can see our design on there. And first I'm going to add in some ice cubes. And then I'm going to pour in some liquid. The liquid is already cold. So it's been sitting with some ice cubes in it and they've melted for a period of time. So there's our ice cubes. And then I'll just pour in our liquid. And we can watch that vinyl change. Now remember, this one goes from like a white to a blue is how it's going to change. And it will change in the same manner, so it will slowly kind of look a little bit more blue until it gets to a really bright blue. This one, the whole thing should change because I put it more in the center of the mug instead of further down to the bottom like I did the other one. So just note that when you do your vinyl placement, that you can kind of note that and use that to help decide where you want your vinyl. So now you can see it's getting that really bright, vibrant blue, and it will continue to change and get brighter as the drink gets colder. And then it will be that blue as long as the drink is cold. As the drink warms up back to room temperature, the vinyl will go back to its original color. So that really pale white color that almost looks like etched glass, it will go back to that color as the vinyl comes back to room temperature. So do note that it will change back. It doesn't just change one time, it changes back, and each time you were to pour cold liquid in it, it would change back to the blue. So there you have your color changing vinyl. All right, so here's our projects. First one had that heat changing vinyl on it, and you can see I went and added some more hot water because I did a few things before I filmed this, and I added hot water back to it. You can see that it's yellow, very yellow. And then this one is still blue, still that same iced drink in there, and it's still that gorgeous blue color. So now if you think I'm gonna make some mugs, how can I make them a bit different this time? Try color changing vinyl. So this is the original color, the red. So it's going to be red when it's cold, and then it'll be that gorgeous yellow when it's hot, and of course changing all the way from the red to yellow with oranges in between as it goes in between. And then for the blue, it will be that kind of milky white, almost looks like etched glass when it's room temperature. And then as it gets colder, it will get more and more blue in color. So hopefully that helped you understand color changing vinyl. It might have made you really want to try it on your next project, right? So drop down to the description below, find the links for the color changing vinyl that I used, grab some, add it to your next project, and see how well you like it. Hopefully you liked this video. If you did, give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions about anything we covered today, please feel free to ask this in the comment section below. If you haven't already, head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We have videos like this all the time, and you surely don't want to miss any of those. So thank y'all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.